think you want freedom? You don't. What you want is the feeling of freedom with the decisions already made for you. Here's the tell. Ikea gives you exactly one path through the store. No shortcuts, no map. One direction. You should hate that. Instead, it's the most successful furniture retailer on earth. The path even has a name, the long natural way. And the people who designed it understood something about you that you have never noticed about yourself. Once you see it, you can't stop seeing it. Start with a question that sounds simple and isn't. Why do humans say they love unlimited freedom and then consistently choose the places that quietly take it away? In 2000, two researchers set up a jam tasting table in a grocery store. When they offered 24 flavors, 3% of people bought a jar. When they cut it down to 6, 30% did. Same jam, same shoppers. 10 times the sales for offering less. That result has a name now. Choice overload. Past a certain point, adding options doesn't add freedom. It adds work. Because every option you're given is a decision you now have to make. And decisions are not free. They cost attention, working memory, and something researchers call cognitive load. Your working memory is small. Genuinely, embarrassingly small. It holds a handful of things at once, and then it starts dropping them. So the brain does what any overloaded system does. It looks for shortcuts. Herbert Simon gave that behavior a name in the 1950s. Bounded rationality. We don't optimize, we can't. We satisfice. We take the first option good enough to stop the searching, which means the real luxury was never more choices. It was fewer decisions that still felt like yours. You already know this feeling. You just never filed it correctly. Think about a completely open evening. Nothing is wrong. Nothing is scheduled. The whole night is yours. And somehow it produces a low hum of dread. Because an open evening isn't a gift. It's a job. Every hour of it has to be decided by you in advance, with no help. Now compare that to the evening where a friend says, I already booked the table for 8, fewer options. Better night, every time. Which brings us back to the furniture store. IKEA's layout is not a maze, and it is not an accident. It is one continuous one-way path that runs through the entire building. Showroom first, where you are shown a life instead of a product. Then the marketplace, where the small cheap things are. Then the warehouse. Then the checkout. In that order, always. You cannot skip a section without deliberately breaking the rules. And here's the part that should bother you. Almost nobody does. The path isn't enforced. There are no guards. There is no lock. It is enforced entirely by the fact that following it is easier than not. That's the whole trick. Not force. Friction. Once you have that word, the built world starts confessing. Grocery stores put milk and eggs at the very back wall. Not to hide them, to make you walk past everything else to reach them. Produce goes first because color and freshness puts you in a generous mood. Casinos have no clocks and no windows, and the paths between anything useful curve. A straight line lets you leave. A curve keeps offering you one more thing. Disney calls their visual magnets weenies. A castle, a mountain, a tower, something tall and interesting at the end of every sightline, so you always know where to go next without ever being told. Museums sequence their galleries so an argument unfolds in the order you walk it. Airports run you past duty-free because there is exactly one way to your gate. Every one of them is running the same play as the furniture store. None of these places restrict you. Every one of them shapes you, and you have never once felt trapped in a grocery store. Now here's where it gets strange. There is an entire industry that solved this exact problem out loud in public and got applauded for it. Every open world game hands you a map the size of a country. Go anywhere, it says. Do anything. And then, very quietly, it puts a glowing marker on your screen. Go anywhere. Here's where to go. A waypoint, a mini-map, a compass line, a trail of light on the ground. And players do not experience that as a leash. They experience it as the game respecting their time. Take the marker away and watch what happens. Players wander, get frustrated, look up a guide, and quit. Not because the world got smaller, because the world got heavier. And the best designers go further than markers. They stop telling you at all. They use light because your eye goes to the brightest thing in the room. They use color, one saturated accent in a desaturated world. They use lines, roads, and fences and rivers that all happen to point the same way. They literally paint the climbable rock a different shade and trust you not to notice you were told. You didn't find the way. You were handed it, gently. And it works every time on people who know exactly how it works. The glowing marker and the long natural way are the same invention. So why doesn't knowing break the spell? Because guidance and control are not the same thing, and your brain can tell the difference instantly. Guidance removes decisions you didn't want to make. Control removes decisions you did. Push a person too obviously, and you get the opposite of compliance. Psychologists call that reactance, the urge to reclaim a freedom the moment you feel it being taken. It is why a locked door is interesting and an open one is furniture. So the systems that last do something more careful than restricting you. They reduce the number of decisions and they leave the important ones on the table. Small choices removed, big choices preserved. That's the entire formula, and it's why it never feels like manipulation from the inside. You still chose the sofa. You still chose the quest. You just didn't have to choose the route. And that distinction is doing more work in your life than almost anything else you can name. That is why the store never felt like a cage. Because once the pattern is visible, it does not stop at stores and games. A road is a guidance system with paint on it. A traffic light is a decision somebody else already made so that 8 strangers don't have to negotiate in intersections. A restaurant menu is a curated list pretending to be the whole world of food. A curriculum is somebody deciding the order in which you meet ideas. Etiquette is a script that saves you from improvising every human interaction from scratch. And the quietest one of all is the default. Countries where organ donation is opt-out have consent rates above 90%. Countries where it's opt-in are often under 20. Same people, same values, one box ticked by someone else years before you arrive. The default is a decision you never knew you delegated, which means most of civilization is not rules. It's architecture, a vast invisible scaffolding built to make an impossibly complex world feel walkable. Nobody is at the controls. There is no room where this is decided. It's a few centuries of people noticing what works and quietly leaving it there. Every one of them is a long, natural way that somebody drew. So walk through tomorrow differently. Notice which door was propped open and which one you had to push. Notice what was placed at eye level and what you had to crouch for. Notice the option that was already selected before you sat down. You'll find a hand in almost everything, and most of the time, it was helping. But here's the thought I actually want to leave you with. Your life has a long natural way too. A default route through your week that you follow without deciding to. The app's position where your thumb already rests. The chair you always sit in. The route home that passes the same 3 temptations. Somebody designed that path. For most people, it wasn't them. You cannot opt out of being guided. That was never available. The only real question is whether you ever pick up the pen. You don't need more freedom. You need a better path.